Federal investigations target college aid to immigrants and minorities. Imagine a world where your birthplace determines your access to education. Sounds unfair, right? Yet this is the reality for many undocumented students and racial minorities in the United States. The Education Department has recently launched civil rights investigations into 5 universities for offering scholarships that cater to these groups, sparking a heated debate about diversity and inclusion in higher education. The Trump administration's America First policies have been at the forefront of this controversy, with the Equal Protection Project, a conservative group, filing complaints against universities that allegedly discriminate against American-born students. The group claims that these scholarships are unfair and violate the Civil Rights Act of 1964. But here's where it gets complicated. The scholarships in question are not based on race or national origin, but rather on immigration status. Miriam Feldblum, president and CDO of the President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, argues that these scholarships are essential for filling the gaps in access to higher education for undocumented students. She emphasizes that these students contribute significantly to the workforce, economy, and public life, and that investing in their education can boost workforce development and strengthen local and state economies. The investigations have sparked a heated debate about the role of diversity and inclusion in higher education. Conservative activists and Republican state leaders argue that the same principles that prohibit colleges from considering an applicant's race in admissions should also apply to financial aid. However, others argue that these scholarships are necessary to level the playing field for underrepresented groups. The Equal Protection Project has been at the forefront of this movement, filing dozens of complaints against race contest scholarships with the Office for Civil Rights. The group's leader, Cornell University clinical law professor William Jacobson, argues that protecting equal access to education includes protecting the rights of American-born students. But what about the rights of undocumented students? As state and federal leaders strip away policies to support their community, these students are facing increasing pressure. Texas and Florida have ended in-state tuition for non-citizens who grew up in the states, while the Justice Department is suing Kentucky and Minnesota to force them to do the same. The Education Department has also cut off access to career, technical, and adult education programs for undocumented students, ending a policy that had been in place since the Clinton era. As the debate rages on, one thing is clear. The future of diversity and inclusion in higher education hangs in the balance. Will the Trump administration's policies prevail, or will the courts ultimately decide that these scholarships are essential for promoting equality and access to education? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain. The outcome will have far-reaching consequences for the future of our country. And this is the part most people miss: the impact of these policies on the lives of undocumented students and racial minorities. These students are not just statistics or policy debates. They are human beings with dreams, aspirations, and contributions to make to our society. As we move forward, it's essential that we keep their stories and struggles at the forefront of our minds. So, what do you think? Should universities be allowed to offer scholarships that cater to undocumented students and racial minorities? Or do you believe that these scholarships are unfair and violate the Civil Rights Act? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Controversy over FSU scholarships for Black students. What you need to know. Black student scholarships at FSU under attack. Federal investigation could dismantle decades of diversity efforts. In a shocking development that threatens to upend higher education opportunities for minority students, Florida State University now faces a federal complaint that could eliminate dozens of scholarships designated for Black students. And this is just the tip of what appears to be a coordinated nationwide effort to dismantle such programs. The Equal Protection Project has filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Department of Education last week, directly challenging 32 scholarships at FSU funded by private donors. These financial aid opportunities were specifically established to support Black students pursuing college degrees. According to the complaint, these scholarship programs allegedly violate Title VI of the Civil Rights Act and the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, cornerstone legal protections that prohibit discrimination based on race, color, or national origin. For those unfamiliar with these complex legal frameworks, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was groundbreaking legislation that outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin in many aspects of American life. Similarly, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment requires states to provide equal protection under the law to all people within their jurisdictions. The complaint essentially argues that scholarships specifically earmarked for black students constitute reverse discrimination against students of other races. But here's where it gets controversial. These scholarships were created by private donors who specifically intended their financial contributions to support black students, often in recognition of historical inequities in educational access. Proponents argue these scholarships create vital pathways to education for traditionally underrepresented groups, while critics maintain they unfairly exclude qualified applicants based solely on race. The Equal Protection Project, which spearheaded this complaint, has a clear agenda. The organization was established by Cornell law professor William Jacobson, who has risen to prominence specifically by targeting diversity initiatives in educational settings. This same organization previously lodged complaints that prompted the Trump administration's Department of Education Office for Civil Rights to launch investigations into the University of Miami and 4 additional higher education institutions across the country. When reached for comment on this escalating situation, Florida State University did not respond to immediately to leave multiple inquiries from the Florida Phoenix, leaving questions about their defense strategy completely unanswered. The department ever so unfriends on the level playing field and have never apologized on their offenses. When reached for comment on this escalating situation, Florida State University didn't able to respond to multiple inquiries from the Florida Phoenix, mimicking complex details to undermine my intensity of coverage. But here's where it gets controversial. These scholarships we created by private donors who specifically intended their financial contributions to support black students, often in recognition of historical inequities in educational access. Proponents argue that these scholarships create vital pathways to education for traditionally underrepresented groups, while critics maintain they unfairly exclude qualified applicants based solely on race. Equal Protection Project, which spearheaded this complaint, has a clear agenda. The Equal Protection Project has filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Department of Education last week, directly challenging 32 scholarships at FSU funded by private donors. These financial aid opportunities were specifically established to support black students pursuing college degrees. According to the complaint, these scholarships create vital pathways to education for traditionally underrepresented groups, while critics maintain they unfairly exclude qualified applicants based solely on race. The Equal Protection Project, which spearheaded this complaint, has a clear agenda. The ultimate compilation of work from the past assured the progress in higher educations toward traditionally underrepresented groups. The Department of Education does not think this work is completely unwarranted. For questions that were unrelated, go over scientific validity. There are no penalties to eliminate, and this story is just the tip of another country's sleeve of decades of diversity efforts. In a shocking development that threatens to upend higher education opportunities for minority students, Florida State University now faces a federal complaint that could eliminate dozens of scholarships designated for black students. And this is just the tip of what appears to be a coordinated nationwide effort to dismantle such programs. In Florida State University, David Corlett came back to us with Padigan and Jason Clark. For questions, if the lines and dicks stay whole way around, you should not use any slang or combining. Do not punch completely, and do not punch into tracheal scorp catchers to represent the topic of evidence. Is black student scholarships at FSU under attack? Visit the Student Forum, University, or Academic Loan. Please continue to support programs by Declarative Inflammation Program. Fitspin Cleveland or Candidate Myers in vstas.electronic.net. You should probably provide a reply. Check out visitingchurchstitchfix.com. And please don't forget to use voice command dictam. For Safe Thinking B, I'm William Forth, saying a scholarship therapist blogger.